Pradesh state government. Shashank, what's your take? The fact that MP has decided to shift to January to December fiscal year, financial year, much in which will coincide with the calendar year also. How important this decision is?
So, Natasha, every economy has its own characteristics and strengths and weaknesses. So, our plans and policies has to be in line with our requirements. Right. So, this definitely was a step in the right direction. But the only thing which needs to be ensured that all the stakeholders should be on board, and there should be a consensus, which, as rightly said, there are various aspects to this dimension, because we cannot move in isolation.
What is this? Please काटो उसको बोलो बाद में करेंगे.
The state government can have a different fiscal year, but it poses practical challenges also. Because let us take an example of the biggest tax reform, GST, which is expected to happen from the 1st July. So in GST, we will have a revenue sharing model. The state, entire revenue, SGST, IGST, UGST, different categories, and this will be shared between the states, different states in the central government. So what will happen if some of the states have calendar years, some of the states have April to March, the central government have this April to March, how this will be harmonized? What will happen to the business entities? What will happen to the corporates who will be required to maintain separate set of accounts? Right. Apart from this, if you think from the other's perspective also, we have separate laws. Let us take example of the Income Tax Act. It requires us to maintain books of accounts for the period April to March. So, as a business person, my Companies Act says that though I can have a different financial year, but ideally it should be April to March. Okay. So initially when the company law was introduced, the thought process was that will be harmonization, that will be synchronization. Income Tax Act and the Companies Act will be at par. Now there is another thing. That definitely this is a good step. Okay. But I think it should have been implemented only after consensus.
Okay, after consensus involving all the stakeholders. Who all are these stakeholders? The businessmen and the traders group, will they have to now maintain two different, data books and accounts? Because let's not forget, Centre is still continuing with the same financial year of April to March. And aligning the Centre needs with the state needs, that will become challenging.
Maintaining the books of accounts is not that much difficult. But getting it audited, getting it vetted from different authorities for the different period poses some additional compliance burden on the business entities. Let us say, if I am filing a return with the income tax authority for a period up to March, and the same sales tax authority I will have to file for Jan to December. So I am just exposing myself to different authorities for different set of returns, and that will not be any benefit. This is definitely a good step because of our inherent limitation, inherent nature of our economy, our dependency on the monsoon, and our dependency of the entire economy on the agricultural sector. But there has to be harmonization. We must move in a cohesive fashion.
Okay, there should be harmonization. In fact, this also includes the reorganization of the tax year and the tax infrastructure. This would require intensive and elaborate reforms also in the existing revenue infrastructure. So what we collect from the centre, what we get from the state government. So there has to be sync between the centre and the state. To start with, this is a bold reform from the Madhya Pradesh state government to have financial year from January to December. But in terms of implementation, how challenging you see this whole perspective? ASSOCHAM has said change in the financial year will not only mean a change in bookkeeping, but also in the entire infrastructure of accounting software, taxation systems, human resource practices, involving huge costs for both big and small industries.
Yes, I agree, but Natasha, no big reform has ever come without upheaval. So we have to remember the fact that whenever a big transition is made for the good of the country or for a change in the policy, there will be some kind of, distortions, there will be some kind of challenges. The cost that ASSOCHAM is talking about, as far as I understand with my limited knowledge of economics, is one-time cost. So I'm sure that kind of a cost can be borne. But the practical issues that have just been pointed out have to be considered. And the fact that all stakeholders should be once called for a meeting. But I'm sure the Shankar Acharya committee, when it would be deliberating this issue, must have consulted stakeholders.
Yeah, but the thing is that, if you see, just take the example of the GST, which is the biggest ever tax reform since independence. Right? So this is the practice of the union government to keep on board every state finance ministers and move only after the consensus, be it the GST rules, be it the act, or be it anything.
Okay.
So why can't we do the same thing while changing the fiscal year? It should be the ideal situation.
Okay, now let's, yes, please.
I just want to say that we should look at this particular transition which Prime Minister Modi is pitching for as part of a larger pattern of economic reforms which the BJP is pursuing. Let us not forget that it was the BJP government under Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2001 which had taken the small reform, which had done the small reform of shifting the budget presentation
Right, from 5
from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Right.
I mean, it saved so much
11
hassle.
yes.
And you remember recently when there was this unfortunate demise of a Loksabha sitting MP, the budget was not delayed. It was presented on the day it was to be presented. Again, look at the fact that they have merged the railway budget and the general budget.
Okay,
And
so you're saying any change will actually initially bring some upheaval, but Shank, I'm sure the viewers would want to know the benefits and of course the challenges
That we will
having this decision of having a fiscal year from January to
Certainly,
December.
certainly.
So can you just, for the benefit of our viewers, just cite the good benefits of introducing this fiscal year?
challenges.
Yes, and the
So let's
challenges.
begin just one thing, that as far as BJP government is concerned, Mr. Modi is known for breaking the conventions and customs. Like what we said, that he preponed the budget from 20th Feb to 1st Feb, change the timings. So coming back to this challenges and the benefits, the biggest benefit, the biggest advantage of this entire change of fiscal year will be have that as of now, when we present the budget, so budget is just not a resource allocation exercise, it's a vision document. So when we present the budget, we don't have the visibility that what is going to happen to our agriculture sector, because the monsoon season starts from June and ends till September, somewhere in September. So once we prepone and align this budget to the calendar year, by the time this monsoon gets over and by the time this budget gets introduced in the parliament, we will have the visibility that what is the kharif yield, what is the estimated rabi sowing, what is the estimated rabi production, where there any specific resource allocation needs to be made for this agricultural sector. But if you go to the data and the statistics, approximately 54% of our agriculture is dependent on the monsoon.
Right.
So you can see the vulnerability. The second thing is that as of now, as per the 2011 census, 70% of our population is a rural population. And the biggest factor which we have to consider in this entire exercise, entire discussion is that 40% of our population is dependent on the rural agricultural income as their primary source of income. So this 40% population is dependent on the agricultural income, and out of this 40%, large part belongs to those farmers who are having very small land holdings.
Okay, so you're saying the change would actually align the budget presentation with the crucial monsoon cycle,
Yes.
and that will actually help the farmers.
Yes. So this is from the positive side. The challenges can be the alignment of the entire tax reforms, entire tax structures, existing accounting practices, and bring everybody on board so that we can reap the benefits and achieve what we are expecting.
So this will also ask for elaborate structural reforms, Shashank, in terms of, from the perspective of the state government. What sort of structural reforms now the Madhya Pradesh state government must introduce from an economist perspective? What is it that they'll now need to do to ensure smooth fiscal year change from January to December?
So my apprehension is that from the perspective of the state governments, once this GST is introduced, the revenue collection will migrate from statewide to GST. So one thing which needs to be clarified from the government authorities, that how they want to implement this, how this transition will happen. Because for GST, if I am a business person, if I am doing business in Madhya Pradesh, I will still have to file my tax returns from April to March, and there will be no need to file the sales tax return.
What happened? क्या हुआ? Let the issue arrive.